Have you ever wondered about the fundamental rules that govern not just the vast cosmos with its swirling galaxies and celestial wonders, but also the intricate tapestry of our daily lives, the interactions within our communities and the very fabric of human existence? Leviticus is that ancient blueprint, a detailed book of rules not for distant stars and planets but specifically designed for people, for us. It sits strategically at the very heart of the Bible, bridging the dramatic and miraculous escape from the clutches of Egypt and the long, arduous journey toward a promised home. Many readers, even seasoned ones, often pause, sometimes even stumble when they reach Leviticus, finding its detailed sacrifices, intricate rituals, and seemingly obscure purity laws distant, perplexing, and even strange. But beneath the surface of these seemingly complex details lies a timeless and fundamental question. How can imperfect, fallible people, stained by the imperfections of life, truly draw near to a perfect, holy, and all-powerful presence? Leviticus isn't simply a dry list of do's and don'ts, a rigid set of rules and regulations. It's a profound and deeply thoughtful exploration of this very mystery, a quest to understand the relationship between humanity and divinity. The Israelites, a nation newly freed from centuries of bondage in Egypt, desperately needed a comprehensive guide to navigate their brand new relationship with God, a relationship built on freedom and covenant. Leviticus therefore became their essential instruction manual, a detailed roadmap, providing step-by-step guidance for living in the very presence of the divine, for building a life centered on holiness. Imagine, if you will, being handed the keys to a complex and powerful machine, something far beyond your current understanding. You'd undoubtedly need a comprehensive manual to understand its workings and operate it effectively. For the nation of Israel, Leviticus served as precisely that manual, providing the necessary instructions for navigating their relationship with God. It's a journey, a deep dive, through ancient laws and traditions, that ultimately reveal timeless truths that resonate even today, about the importance of connection with something greater than ourselves, the strength found in community, and the pursuit of a life filled with purpose. So let's set aside our modern assumptions and preconceived notions, and attempt to see the world through the eyes of the Israelites, understanding their context and their challenges. Their seemingly strange rituals weren't merely arbitrary customs or empty traditions. They were powerful symbols, carefully designed to point to deeper, more profound realities about God and humanity. And within these ancient laws and regulations we can find echoes, reflections of our own ongoing quest for meaning, purpose, and connection in a complex world. Ultimately, Leviticus is the enduring story of humanity's persistent journey, learning to walk hand in hand with God, striving for a deeper understanding of the divine, and within its ancient and often misunderstood pages, we might just discover a timeless blueprint, a guide for building a life that truly resonates with a purpose far greater than ourselves, a life filled with meaning and spiritual fulfillment. To understand Leviticus, we must first journey back in time and place ourselves in the shoes of the Israelites. Picture the Sinai wilderness, a vast, unforgiving desert stretching as far as the eye can see. This is not a land of comfort or ease, but one of harsh realities and stark landscapes. The Israelites, newly freed from Egypt after generations of slavery, wander here as a nation in its infancy, a fledgling community finding its way. They are a people in transition, leaving behind the familiar and stepping into the unknown. They've witnessed miracles, the parting of the Red Sea and the plagues of Egypt, but now face a future they cannot see, a path shrouded in uncertainty. Their old worldview, shaped by Egypt's gods and rituals, is gone, shattered by the power of the one true God. The idols and practices of their former life no longer hold sway. In the center of their camp stands the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary filled with God's tangible presence. This changes everything. The divine is both a gift, a source of unimaginable blessing, and a challenge, demanding reverence and obedience. God's presence is like the sun, life-giving, essential for survival, but dangerous if approached carelessly, capable of scorching and consuming. The ground becomes holy, set apart, imbued with a sacredness that demands respect. The Israelites must ask, how do we live ordinary lives near such overwhelming holiness? How do we reconcile the mundane with the divine? Leviticus unfolds as their answer, a guide to navigating this new reality. It is not a code of law for a settled kingdom, but for a nomadic people learning to be holy, a blueprint for a mobile society centered on God. Its rules and rituals are practical answers to real questions, addressing the everyday challenges of life in the wilderness. They're guardrails, protecting the people from spiritual danger, and providing a safe path to draw near to God, fostering intimacy without inviting destruction. The desert was their crucible, Leviticus, their formula for formation, shaping them into a people set apart. In this wilderness, a new society was being forged, a community bound together by covenant and centered around the awe-inspiring presence of the divine. Why so many rules? To us, Leviticus can seem restrictive, but to the Israelites, these laws were a gift. They offered a blueprint for a just and compassionate society, radically different from Egypt's world of power and exploitation. Leviticus's laws protected the vulnerable and reflected the Creator's order. They created a shared identity, a common language of behavior and belief. Observing dietary laws and festivals wasn't just obedience, it was communal, shaping a unified nation. In a chaotic world, these rules brought order and meaning. Most importantly, they were about holiness, being set apart. God called his people to be different from the corrupt societies around them. Laws about clean and unclean worship and ethics taught what it meant to be holy. They were a hands-on course in seeing the world through God's eyes. Leviticus trained the Israelites to value what God values, and to live in a way that honored his presence. Leviticus opens with a system of sacrifices: burnt, grain, peace, sin, and guilt offerings. To us, animal sacrifice seems foreign, but for the Israelites it was the language of worship. Each offering had meaning: burnt for surrender, grain for gratitude, peace for fellowship. Sacrifices weren't about appeasing an angry deity, but about devotion and drawing near to God. Sin and guilt offerings addressed human failure, providing a way to restore broken relationships. The ritual, laying hands on an animal, transferring guilt, was a physical demonstration of forgiveness. Sacrifice didn't magically erase sin, it was meant to express genuine repentance. The life of the animal, given in place of the sinner, was a sobering reminder of the cost of forgiveness. The prophets later condemned empty rituals. The heart mattered most. These offerings pointed to deeper truths about life, death, and redemption. Leviticus's sacrifices were a vivid reminder of the seriousness of sin and the hope of restoration. Next, Leviticus details laws of clean and unclean, what to eat, how to handle disease, and more. Being unclean wasn't about dirtiness, but ritual status, temporarily outside communal holiness. These laws were daily reminders that distinctions matter. God brings order from chaos. Clean animals fit their categories, unclean ones blurred boundaries, symbolizing disorder. Skin diseases and bodily discharges represented visible signs of decay and loss of life. Declaring someone unclean protected the tabernacle from symbols of death. Once clean again, people could rejoin the community and worship. This cycle mirrored the human condition, moving between order and disorder. Leviticus taught that while disorder is part of life, it doesn't have the final say. There was always a path back to purity and community. These rituals embodied hope and restoration at the heart of society. At Leviticus's heart is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, a cosmic reset for the nation. The high priest entered the most holy place, offering sacrifices for himself and the people. 2 goats were chosen, one sacrifice to purify the sacred space, the other, the scapegoat, carried the nation's sins into the wilderness. This ritual cleansed the community and restored their relationship with God. The ceremony acknowledged that sin pollutes not just individuals, but the whole community. It couldn't be ignored, it needed real removal. God provided a way for sin to be dealt with completely. The Day of Atonement demonstrated both God's justice and mercy. It allowed Israel to start fresh each year, their relationship with God renewed. The scapegoat's journey into the wilderness was a powerful symbol of forgiveness. Leviticus offered hope even collective failure could be cleansed. After the Day of Atonement, Leviticus shifts to the Holiness Code, how to live as a holy people. Holiness moves from the tabernacle into daily life, family, neighbors, business, and care for the vulnerable. True worship required ethical living. The Holiness Code commands justice, compassion, and fairness. Leave food for the poor, treat immigrants well, respect the elderly. At its center, love your neighbor as yourself. This radical command grounded relationships in God's character. Worship and ethics were inseparable. Holiness was a total way of life. The call to be holy was a call to create a just, compassionate society. Israel was to be a light to the nations, showing what the world looks like when God is king. Leviticus's genius was connecting ritual and ethics as 2 sides of the same coin. Leviticus lays out a vision for a holy society, a community set apart, dedicated to God's purposes. It paints a picture of what life could look like when lived in complete alignment with divine will. But a tension remains: can anyone truly live up to it? Is such a lofty standard attainable for mere mortals? The book presents an ideal, but the question lingers. How can humanity bridge the gap between aspiration and reality? The system itself anticipates failure. It's built with the understanding that humans will inevitably fall short. Constant sin offerings and the Day of Atonement acknowledge human imperfection, serving as a regular reminder of our inherent limitations and the need for continual cleansing. The story of Nadab and Abihu, priests consumed by fire for unauthorized worship, is a stark warning, a dramatic illustration of the consequences of treating God's holiness with anything less than utmost respect. God's holiness demands reverence and obedience, not just good intentions. It requires a heart posture of humility and a commitment to following His specific instructions. The Israelites faced the challenge of constant mindfulness, a daily, even hourly awareness of their actions and their potential to defile themselves. Tracking purity, remembering rituals, adhering to a complex system of rules and regulations designed to maintain their holy status before God. Yet, they were human, fallible, prone to error, and susceptible to temptation, prone to forgetfulness and failure, constantly battling their own weaknesses and limitations. The system was perfect, meticulously designed and flawlessly executed in its ideal form. The people were not. They were imperfect vessels attempting to navigate a perfect system. Leviticus exposes the gap between the ideal and reality, highlighting the inherent tension between God's perfect standard and humanity's flawed nature, revealing our inability to achieve perfect holiness through our own efforts, demonstrating the futility of trying to earn God's favor through strict adherence to the law. It creates longing for something more, a deeper, more profound solution to the problem of human sin. A perfect priest, a perfect sacrifice, a new covenant, one that could truly bridge the gap between God and humanity. Leviticus points beyond itself to a future hope, hinting at a time when the limitations of the old system would be superseded by something greater. It anticipates a time when God's law would be written on hearts, not just stone, transforming people from the inside out. The book's tension is its genius. It's not a flaw, but a deliberate design element. It reveals our need for grace, highlighting our utter dependence on God's unmerited favor. In its longing and its very inability to provide a complete solution, Leviticus prepares us for a greater solution, setting the stage for the ultimate act of redemption. Why care about Leviticus today? In a world without tabernacles or animal sacrifices, Leviticus is part of a larger story, finding fulfillment in the New Testament. Its questions are answered in the life and work of Jesus. Hebrews calls Jesus the great high priest, offering a perfect once-for-all sacrifice. The cross becomes the ultimate day of atonement, achieving what animal sacrifices could only foreshadow. Jesus declared all foods clean, breaking down barriers between people. Holiness is now a moral and spiritual transformation empowered by God's Spirit. Leviticus reveals God's character, holy, just, and gracious. It shows that sin is a real barrier, requiring a real solution. The book gives us the language of sacrifice and atonement, helping us grasp the meaning of the cross. Leviticus is the backdrop that makes the gospel shine. Its journey is still worth taking, for it leads us to the heart of God's story.